day 94 of our journey through the Bible. I want to get a little better acquainted with this period of time that has to do with the time of the return of Judah to the ruins of Jerusalem. And of course, our focus is on these two important men that God used during this period of time, Ezra and Nehemiah. It's already been mentioned that Ezra and Nehemiah are always collected together in the Jewish writings. That is, they were regarded by the Jews as a single work. And when we talk about them, we sort of have to deal with them together. When you read the opening verses and compare them with the closing verses of 2 Chronicle, you see there's a definite continuation of the history of Judah. Jerusalem in this period of time was much, much smaller than modern Jerusalem. And the temple took up a great deal of the space within its walls. Therefore, the size of the walls that had to be rebuilt were much smaller than the walls which would later be constructed. While some of these historical details are interesting to biblical scholars, I suppose the real significance of these two books for us is to see the careful way they document the result of sin and the eventual restoration of a sinning people by Yahweh God. I would encourage you as you read through these books to think through this thought. Sooner or later, every one of us are probably going to have to come to the point where we say to ourselves, I have sinned. Is there hope for me? Let's face squarely some truths that stand out about our sin. When I sin, there are consequences. There is a price to pay. The longer the sin goes on, the greater the price. For every action of sin, there's an equal reaction of judgment. There are consequences that I and many times the people I love will bear because of my sin. In the case of Judah, their sin had caused them to come under the deepest levels of judgment. Sin also brings a loss of useful life. This can extend for long periods of time. In the case of Judah, their captivity in Babylon lasted for many years. Often one of the things we don't really think about in the middle of sinning is that we're wasting a great deal of valuable life in the process of our disobedience. And sometimes that's followed by another period of time when we're sort of put on the shelf as God has to deal with some of the consequences of our sinning. Israel lost precious years suffering needlessly as the consequence of their many years of blatant rebellion against Yahweh. It is a terrible price that always comes with our sin. A man who did not believe in the security of believers after they were truly saved once said to a pastor who was trying to explain this truth to him, he said, if I believed like you believe, that once you become a Christian, you could never lose your salvation, well, I would sin all I wanted to. The pastor wisely replied, Sir, if you have been to the cross and have seen the awful consequences of sin, you would have already sinned all that you wanted to. Jesus bore our judgment. The more we understand that and see him, the less we'll want anything to do with sin or with wasting our life. It's an important day in the life of a Christian when he is able to say, or she is able to say, I have already sinned all I want to. I'm tired of my sin. I don't like what it does to me. That's one of the great lessons we find here in Ezra and Nehemiah. Well, again, from Nehemiah, that great 9th chapter, we read beginning with verse 36. Behold, we are slaves this day in the land you gave to our fathers to enjoy its fruits and its good gifts. Behold, we are slaves, and its rich yields goes to the kings whom you have set over us because of our sins. They rule over our bodies and over our livestock as they plead, and we are in great distress.